So I have a guest, a voice that we haven't heard on this channel for a long time. Young James Charlton over here. If you remember ages ago, some podcasts that we used to do, James is on those, and some Deadpool reviews, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're here to talk about the conundrum that is the Cloverfield Paradox.
Well, first of all, hello. It definitely is a paradox. For sure.
Yeah. What did you think of it, James?
I thought it
was pretty
sucked.
bad, wasn't it?
It wasn't as bad as what I've been seeing on Rotten Tomatoes. I've got to give it that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I think the CG is all right for like a straight to Netflix. You know, straight to Netflix in a lot of ways. It's such a gamble because sometimes you see things on Netflix that are amazing and you're like, wow, this should have been in theaters, and others it's kind of become like the bargain bin straight to DVD, like, you know, this is the new version of it.
Because you look at like most of Netflix's TV shows are like, they're usually good, they have a good batting average for TV shows, and then when it comes to movies, it's like so far in my mind, like The Siege at Jadotville is the only one that I was like, that was really good. That was the with Jamie Dornan and all that.
Yeah. I've not seen that one yet.
Because since then they had Spectral, which was rubbish, Bright, which was rubbish, and now this, which was also rubbish. You know, even before it like went straight to Netflix, I was disappointed because I was like, oh, I wanted to see it on the big screen and all that kind of stuff. But now I'm like, this looks like a made-for-TV movie.
And now you're just happy that they didn't steal your money.
Exactly. I was like, I only paid how much?
You're checking your pockets and you're going, woo! still got that money.
Yeah. There's a couple of Jack and Cokes right there.
Oh no, yeah, for you definitely, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that's the most disappointing is it's not a Cloverfield film, and it's so clear through the whole thing, because every time anybody says Cloverfield, it's off camera or it's on a shitty little monitor that's been imposed onto the screen. Where the actors have obviously been like told, right, okay, in a reshoot, it's like you're supposed to just look at the screen and shake your head. There's some guy.
I'll get to that bit in a second. But so first, if we talk about like, what did you think of like previous Cloverfield movies? Like the first one, the fan footage monster movie, the original OG Cloverfield.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I think it's a very solid found footage film.
Yeah.
I don't think found footage films have aged particularly well.
No.
Because of just how many have been able to get thrown out, especially obviously horror.
Yeah, it's such an easy genre to just like shit out.
I like though the fact that it is trying something new, and you do get a decent amount of monster.
It's a good attempt at like a modern monster movie. Because like I've seen like, I do remember there was another like, I think it was like, you know, whenever like big blockbusters come out, there's always like the bargain bin DVD knockoff of it that's trying to cash in. Because I remember at some point I rented a movie called Monster, which was this vague octopus thing in Japan, and it was like basically it was just a massive rip-off of Cloverfield, and it was like every time the monster showed up, the camera just like shut off or went blinky, and it was like
everyone started doing the Harlem Shake. It was back then,
and then when it came back, it was like, oh, well, we just went through some stuff, but in Cloverfield, you actually got a decent amount of like monster action and stuff in there that was like really good. And I was like, the acting was pretty good as well. And I think
it was alright,
Cloverfield was like, it was a decent monster movie. I love the design of the monster itself and the little parasite things around them. And it's if they bite you, you explode. I thought that was a cool little detail.
Yeah.
And there was just like good set pieces of like when the building had like fallen into the other one, they had to like navigate
it's kind of video game almost.
All that kind of stuff. So it was like some good stuff in there. I thought solid film with just a genius marketing campaign behind it.
Yeah, I think the thing that defined the Cloverfield universe to us was definitely the marketing was genius. And it was something that you didn't need to look into. It wasn't like, you needed to do homework before you went in, but it's nice little snippets.
It's like you don't need to know that stuff, but if you did, it like makes it even more of an enriching experience.
But you know, some guys went crazy just going through, and you saw all this, you know, and it's like Charlie Day in that one episode where he's got, you know, the string, and you're seeing all these theories on YouTube.
Look at all this,
and you're just like, holy shit! How much time do you have?
There's so many YouTube videos of just like, see, if you go to this website and type in this password, you get this, and that links to this video that they.
And it's distorted, but if then you tweak the audio, I'm like, how much time do you have, man?
Yeah, it's like Jesus.
The one thing I didn't like about Cloverfield was you could tell it was released for a wide audience. So the only thing that they were basically allowed to say through the whole film was, "Oh my god,"
and "damn," and
through the whole thing.
Yeah, no one dropped an F-bomb.
I know.
I think maybe they did one F-bomb at like one point, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know who did it, but it should have just been like a really elongated kind of like black guy who sees the monster and goes, "Shit." Like get the money's worth out of that. But it was a decent film.
First Cloverfield, solid. 10 Cloverfield Lane I thought was great. Really, really brilliant.
I think it's the closest thing to a kind of Hitchcockian film we've got in recent film memory.
Yeah. It's like great premise, great characters,
like
really
the
good
depth,
performances.
Especially, obviously, John Goodman and Elizabeth Winstead.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Yeah. And I mean, the other guy...
The other guy, I can't remember his name.
He was good. He was good. He was serviceable for what, you know, for the material he had.
And again, it's like, because it's like that made it so intriguing. Where it's like, this is a Cloverfield movie, but it seems to have little to no connection to what we saw before. It's kind of like, because a lot of people were asking, like, well, was the Cloverfield monster from the first one the aliens in this one, or was it what's going on here? Because then that conjured up so many ideas, and why I was really excited for this one, the Cloverfield, because they were like, so is it different timelines, different dimensions, or whatever? Because then when they started talking about like God particle and quantum physics and stuff, like this was supposed to be one that like explains how they're all connected, and I was like, ooh, that's exciting and intriguing.
It was going to be like the new anthology show, but for movies.
Which is still really exciting.
So it was kind of like Black Mirror, or what was the original OG?
Twilight Zone.
Twilight. It was going to be Twilight Zone
for
movies.
Limits and stuff like that. Yeah.
But
just that like code word of Cloverfield identifying it. It's a weird sci-fi.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the fact that it's not just one genre focused, because that's what 10 Cloverfield Lane proved, that you could do a Cloverfield movie with it not really being horror solely. I mean, obviously there's horror, you know, snippets throughout, but it is at its base, it's a thriller, and it's a pretty intelligent one at that for the most part. You can definitely see where J.J. Abrams took the original material though and went, stand back, I'm J.J. Abrams, I will fuck you up. And then he just turned it into the alien.
With the aliens showing up and the slug things.
Yeah, you know what? The more I think about that film, that last 10 minutes...
5 or 10 minutes,
is the most forgettable out of the entire film. Yeah. I almost wish, and I know it would be a massive dick tease otherwise, but I almost wish the film ended a hint of something rather than showing us the whole spaceship. It's like, this is why the women came up to the door.
Because it makes because I wonder, it's like, clearly, you know, where she came up to the door and was all diseased and stuff, it's like, clearly there's something wrong.
It was intriguing.
Something has happened. Then I think maybe she should have just gone out into the world and then, like, I don't know, as I said, like, just found a hint of something, like maybe just like a dead monster or creature of some kind, or just like heard some kind of like roar in the distance, or, like, saw something on the horizon and like cut to black before you see what it is.
Like the perfect shot to have ended the movie, if you led up to it like in the right way, would have been the silhouette of the house when the lights from the spaceship and it, like, you know, some sound, and then it cut to black. You got a good movie. You could do a fan edit
easily,
and but again, it doesn't ruin the film in any
still
way.
It's totally
awesome.
Great film, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we get to the Cloverfield Paradox, James.
I don't know what they were thinking. I honestly don't know what they were thinking with them being like, well, you like the first two films, instead of doing a new kind of thing, we're going to tie them together. And, obviously this genius marketing campaign, I've got to give it to them.
Yeah. Ballsy move, dropping it on Netflix the same day as the trailer comes out.
Literally, it's the best move I think they could have made with this film. I think JJ obviously got a notification on his phone being like, this film is getting hammered, and he's like, I've sold it already. He just sets down his phone and goes back to his solid gold car.
Much like 10 Cloverfield Lane, it's like this was a different film. At the beginning, it was called God Particle. It was a different film, and then J.J. Abrams kind of got wind of it, got a hold of it, and then added in the Cloverfield elements.
Yeah.
And but I've actually read. Well, I've read like a summary of what the original script was, and the original script doesn't even sound that great.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this. Them coming into contact with the European ship.
They're like the original script for God Particle was these guys working on a particle accelerator in space to try and come up with the theory of everything to unite quantum physics with general relativity in science and all that kind of stuff. And but meanwhile,
instead of the war between
America is at war with all of Europe.
I know. We took their ship for long enough. Yeah. Trump was the last straw. We said, "Fuck this shit. We're going to war." Oh God! Just the united Europe.
Which is just bizarre. And then they same thing happens.
Does Brexit happen in this scenario? Are we just done? Are we the straw that broke the camel's back?
That's it.
They kill us first, and then they go after the US.
But so then what happens in the original script is the particle accelerator goes wrong, as it does in the movie, and then Earth vanishes, and they're like, what happened? We don't know where we are. And then they get approached by a European spacecraft, and they've got a bunch of people on there, and then at some point someone starts dying, and essentially the rest of the film is basically kind of a murder mystery thriller between the two crews trying to not trusting each other, then they're accusing each other and all this kind of stuff, and then they find out that they've just been teleported to the other side of the sun, nearer to Mars, but they know where Earth is, I can't remember how it ends, where I think the good guys win, I guess.
So not us, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I guess. I guess the Americans win or whatever. But that doesn't even sound that interesting to me. Because I'm like, why would you go through all the trouble of setting up the particle accelerator and these quantum physics and general relativity and all that kind of stuff, just to have them jump a couple of a couple of million kilometers to the left, basically, you know, and then it's there's no real consequences. It's the space station moved, but they can still just fly back to Earth. Yeah. And the war is still going on.
Yeah. So it was a pretty bland script. So I thought it's obviously been shelved.
Which is why, in the actual movie, what happens is the particle accelerator goes wrong, and then they end up in another dimension. And physics has turned on its head, and all kinds of things are happening, which is odd.
And now we got the Cloverfield Paradox from that.
And it doesn't make any sense.
Well, we start at the beginning.
Yeah, so start at the beginning where it's Earth is, it's running out of energy. Running out of power sources.
And obviously we're on the brink of war with
Russia and China. It's everyone's going bad. Yeah. And
we were introduced to our main...
Ava Hamilton, the character's name, played by... have a shot at his name, James.
Gugu Mbatha Raw as Ava Hamilton.
Yeah. Look, this has got a great cast. It does actually have a generally great cast.
I looked at this and I thought,
David Oyelowo and Daniel Brühl and John Ortiz, who was also... Actually, I haven't seen him in it. So. Chris O'Dowd from the IT crowd.
The comic relief.
Axel Henney, who was also in The Martian. Zhang Ziyi, who's great. And Elizabeth Debicki, who's really promising. And I haven't heard of Roger Davies before, though.
No. Maybe he's a newcomer.
He did all right, though, I guess.
I mean, he was obviously brought in for the reshoots.
Yeah, we'll get to his scene. So they go up. they're trying to do the particle accelerator to do unlimited energy. It's not really working that well.
Yeah, they've been up there for what, like 200
2 years.
And
then they jump, and then it's like they end up winding up in another dimension. And Elizabeth Debicki's character appears, and she's like from the alternate crew.
Yeah, inside the case.
Wall,
but who the fuck screams like that? First of all,
I guess it's echoing or
because it's like, "Rah!" And then as soon as it opens up, she's just normal. It's like, what kind of metal is this?
Yeah, here's my biggest problem with like that script is that I like the idea. Again, it's like, I think the original script's problem was that you had this great premise for sci-fi stuff and they don't capitalize on it. So I get the point of like actually trying to do some interesting physics stuff, but none of it makes any fucking sense. Because that's my problem, is that they basically just, like Daniel Bruhl's character says, like, oh, it's two things trying to occupy the same space, which they're not, by the way, because we find out that the other station is crashed in the ocean.
They're all dead apart from this one woman. So
and then
so the universe is trying to kill us.
Something like that.
That was it.
So they're like, it's basically just an excuse to just make up anything they want. Which
to me is the get out of jail free card.
Yeah, but for me it doesn't get you out of jail free. Because
it definitely does.
No, it doesn't. No, because it's like, you pay lip service to actual physics of like particle accelerators and Higgs bosons and all that kind of stuff, and then you just kind of throw it all out the window to basically do anything you want. It's like characters will just die for whatever reason they want. You know, it's like some stuff I kind of get where it's like if you move to the other dimension, it's like, I'm guessing they were where the other station was, maybe, but then again that's unclear because apparently the station crashed. So then it's like. What was Elizabeth Debicki's name again? Mina Jensen. It's like, I get her being in the wall. That was like a cool reveal. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because again, it's just like the spatial, she was somewhere, then the station like formed into her, essentially, like teleported into her, so she's like fucked up. And I'm like, that's cool. Yeah. And the worms thing kind of works as well, where it's like the worms were in one location in the other dimension, then went into him, I'm guessing. Yeah. I think that's what's supposed to have happened.
But it was such a clean fit.
Yeah,
and I don't know. It was a bit cartoony for me. That bit.
I think that was what's supposed to happen. But then the other bits that get me, it's like Chris O'Dowd's character dies from magnetism, and I don't know why magnetism has come into play all of a sudden. Zhang Ziyi's character dies. This is so dumb. Frozen. Why is there a option to like flood an airlock with water? Like, where does the water come from? Because it's like. They even show you in the movie why you'd never have water systems going to an airlock, because as soon as you open the door it fucking freezes her to death. So it's like,
I know, do you know, that bit almost reminded me of a prequel film to a horror film, if you know what I mean. Where
like the teaser,
like because it's like in the original where it's like, oh, and they like go past the window and there's this woman frozen in an airlock kind of thing, but you're like, in the prequel, they have to find some dumb shit to find out how that would happen. That's what that scene reminded me of. I mean,
and also the one that was baffling to me, I cannot fathom how this makes any sense. Yeah. The bit where after Chris O'Dowd's character dies and they blow up like a section of the station
with what is it, a canister of what is it, oxygen or
so I don't know what, I can't remember what blows it up, but something blows it up, and then there's a bit where it's like the captain of it, David Oyelowo's character Keel, says like, this is a 3-man job, but then it's not a 3-man job because they go over to the thing and then it's like, by the way, the whole gravity thing does not work. How the station is supposed to generate gravity doesn't make any sense. So then he's like, this is a 3-man job. But then he goes over there. He goes up to the switch and he tries to turn the switch. And the other two people just stand there. Yeah. And then he's like, does the fake out sacrifice thing. Where like,
captain sacrifice.
Cut the hydraulics. And then he seals the door. And then she says, you don't need to do this, we can do this remotely. And then I'm like, what does that mean? If you can do this remotely, why are the 3 of you like abseiling across to the other side of the city?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because he tries it.
He was just tired of this film. Yeah. He was just like, fuck all y'all!
Because like he tries the switch the first time and then he's like, it's jammed. And then he tries it the second time and it's like, fine.
Well, but it's because the doors... sealed, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that's what it was.
Nothing about that made any sense. Where it was like, nothing about it made, because it's a 3-man job. No, it's not. And then it's like, we can do this remotely. Well, evidently you couldn't. And then it's like, it's jammed. Oh, actually, it's not now. You know, it's like nothing about that. It's like Chris O'Dowd's the magnetism thing, because I guess you paid lip service to it of like, oh, physics is screwing up, so something happened there.
Yeah, it's also the fact that throughout the film it's kind of like, and then this happens, and then this happens,
that's one.
And then this happens.
It's a story where it's like, and then.
It's not, and this happens because this. Yeah. It's just like, and Chris O'Dowd's arm gets sucked into a wall,
which again, it doesn't quite make sense to me, because he loses his arm, but then his arm writes to open up. What's his name again? The Russian guy. Volkov. But then I'm like, but if it was his arm from...
Well, he's dead in the other... I think it's saying...
If it was his arm from his dimension, how does his arm know to open up...
How does his arm fucking move? I don't know. That's the big question. Yeah. I mean, he's doing this Addams Family shit, and you don't get it, and it's never brought up again. It writes down the note, and then they just, I don't know what they do with it. Do they put a little bow on it and call it Harry or something? Yeah. I don't get it.
And then like. Also, that annoyed me as well, is that Chris O'Dowd was just wasted. Because here's the thing, Chris O'Dowd is a funny guy, but he's also a genuinely good actor.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think they basically hired Chris O'Dowd, and the director must have just gone, you're the funny one. And that's his thing completely.
Oh, there's one bit.
He's just the funny one. And it's like, every time he's like doing his little quips and things, and it's like, it doesn't fit.
There's one part in particular that I watched, and I was like... Take that out. I know the film's already on Netflix, but take that shit out. I think it was right after the Russian exploded with the worms, and he just goes, he could basically just have went to the camera and just went, I guess we know where the worms are, and then everybody is like, woo! It's like the Cloverfield Paradox is filmed in front of a live audience. It was so out of place. Oh, he so just saw this guy that he's been on a staging with for like 2+ years explode with worms, and he makes a quip like that.
Oh, also it was like the characters in general were just like paper thin. Like they had no time to develop. Because like even the lead character, what was her job on the station? Because like
it's never really brought up.
Because like Daniel Bruhl and Zhang Ji were the physicists. The Russian.
She was like the comms expert, I think.
Was she?
Yeah, because she was I mean, she was the one who was like, the Earth's gone. She had communication to...
Oh, she's a calm person.
Yeah, because that's how she was able to do her job on Earth in the other reality.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't even know why she needed to be up there in the first place then, because that would just be an extra mouth to feed if she could have just done her job down on Earth. But who knows? This scenario happened.
Yeah.
I think that they should have focused everything into her in a lot of ways, because she had at least the family and
she had a history. She had an arc.
Although you don't see the start of that arc, it would have been nice to have at least seen like a cliche kind of fire, like screaming, and then she wakes up and it's like Cloverfield.
Like, that would have been something.
It would have been something.
But like the other characters, it's like they had no time to develop. They had barely any lines, and it's like you didn't get to know any of them before it all kicked off.
Yeah, I mean, there's hints of characters. Yeah. Like, I like the scene where... I mean, I'm not purposely shitting all over this. I like the scene where the captain is in his quarters and he's kind of getting his shit together before he puts on his face and goes to all the guys.
That was a good moment.
That's a really nice moment.
Yeah.
Like, so there's hints of bits here and there where you're like,
the actors in general are doing their best. And like they were probably told like all about their character. They probably did have like a history of like what their character was about, but we just didn't get it. We just didn't see it on screen, and so there was just not really many people to invest in. And again, as well, especially because they had such dumb, fucking stupid deaths. They were just like, there was no reason for you to die.
It was like Final Destination in space.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah, it was really bizarre.
But it wasn't as clever or unique.
It was just kind of like... saying something for those movies.
no, let's go watch a Final Destination film, Rowan. We'll have a great time. The Final Destination Paradox. I mean, it would have made more sense. To be fair, it's like, we should have died in that crash. Now death's after us.
Maybe, yeah.
It's better than the last fucking shot of this film.
Okay, so shall we talk about the stuff which has been inserted into the movie to make it a Cloverfield film?
Well, like the buy my book guy. Who's the brother, apparently, of
John Goodman's character,
Goodman.
Yeah. That scene was so bad.
It was like it was like he had to spell everything out.
Yeah.
It was like, well, it could, I don't know, it could wake
I wonder
it could wake a deep sea life, aliens or monsters. We get it. We get it.
You just
that was almost meta.
No, it was just terrible. Like,
I mean,
it was so
it
bad.
was terrible meta. Though.
It was like there was nothing left up to interpret. There was nothing left up to like being vague.
He should have just been like. He just should have just turned like. He should have just winked to the camera and been like, maybe there'll be Nazis next time. It's just like.
It should have been. It basically should have been like, and now we interview J.J. Abrams, and then just have J.J. Abrams saying like, okay, so these are the scenes I've put into the script.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Go see this movie.
It was awful.
It was so clunkily put in. It was so bad.
Yeah.
It's like, at least with 10 Cloverfield Lane, the thing at the end, it was like, well, that was kind of makes sense even within that story. It's like, even if you hadn't seen the previous Cloverfield movie, that would still make sense. It would, the ending still would have been weaker because of it, but it would still make sense on a standalone level. But that whole section, it was so bad.
It was just a script to the audience.
Yeah.
They didn't have any creative way of saying that.
Because it was also like the characters that were watching it. The guy was just. That scene, it also like went on for so long.
Yeah,
the character was just looking at it.
I know.
And listening to this guy.
I thought it was just kind of like I thought it was just footage that they were just keeping on going. So maybe every 2 seconds he's scratching his head and it goes back and he's scratching his head.
Like a bit in Speed.
Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. That guy is staring at that screen. He stared at the screen until his commander was like, "Stop staring at that. Get back to work."
It was awful.
Even the captain noticed how long he was just standing still.
And like, 'cause also like the whole bit of like her husband on the ground was so bad.
It was so tacked on.
I know.
There was no
like,
payoff.
Because you could tell like they had no budget for that bit as well. Because most of his scenes, it was just like him in a room somewhere. And like the worst part of that film is also like the world building as well. Because it's kind of like he sits in his home and she's like, "What's going on?" And then he's like, the worst kind of world building is when there's two characters talking about something that they already both know. Yeah. Because like, and that's the one what happened there, where she's asking him like, "How are things down there?" And then he says to her like, "Oh, you see the same news I do." So I'm like, "Well, yeah, so you should already know, you idiot." So it's like, and then he just explains like, we don't see it. We don't see it. It's like, they could have I would have been happy with just like stock footage from the news and just find stock footage of like a riot or whatever. And then just say like, "Oh, the things are getting worse." Have a news reporter in front of a green screen saying, "Oh, things are getting worse," because at least that's like visually done. But no character just. I mean, it would have been better than the guy
I guess it would have been. But at the same time,
just being like, "Here's how the world is right now."
I'm so sick of like those though. At the same time,
I know they are bad,
they're just so
they're better than what was there.
I suppose.
It's like if that was the bare minimum I would have asked for. It's like would not have been great, but it's like that would have been better than what was there.
I would have liked more things with him maybe interacting with other people and kind of at least some storyline and payoff.
I know,
because there's nothing. Because he finds the kid, okay?
Takes the kid to a shelter.
Oh, first of all, he sees the shadow in the smoke, and you're like, "Oh, it's the Cloverfield monster." Yeah. But then you start asking yourself, "Wait, well, this is set in 2029 or 28?
2008 was the first one?
Yeah, like the first one's 2008.
Yeah.
And then this one's
set in 2028.
28, yeah. So you're like, I don't get what that's about then. But then they're like, it doesn't matter because it's multiple universes. I guess, yeah. But then, he goes to the bunker. Yeah. And that's it. And that's it. He texts... He gets a text from the the girl's grandparents going, "Cheers, mate! Thanks for saving her grandchild," and that's the payoff.
Also, how the fuck does he have a signal? And like that kind of an emergency, isn't that the first thing to go? Like no one can get through to anyone because all the phone lines are clogged.
He's obviously on a better network than us, Rowan. He's on 7G if you see as well. So,
yes, so yeah.
I mean, but like, I'll live in that universe.
Yeah, but again, it's like his scenes were so, and they looked cheap as shit. Have you noticed that? Like all of his scenes looked really bad.
Yeah.
Like in terms of production value, the whole thing isn't great, but then his scenes especially just looked like a made for TV, like not like even a good TV network. Like I'm talking like early 2000s sci-fi channel kind of thing. Like
I mean,
it looked really bad.
There's just I think there's some really good shots. Sprinkled through, like her in the window. It's nice still.
It was nice,
and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing creative with that guy's scenes. Yeah. No payoff other than that, the ending, obviously.
Yeah.
But
which doesn't make any.
Yeah. Okay, so we go back to the ship.
Let's talk about the ending. Yeah, because like. So
okay, are we going straight to the ending?
First, on the space station, then you realise that the Jensen character turns against them and wants to murder them.
Yeah, she like pistol whips.
Which is completely out of nowhere.
Yeah, because, I mean, that ship is in no fit state to do anything.
No. Until it is.
Until it is, apparently, until the script says so.
Yeah.
But she's like, oh, it's not enough time, I've got to do this. And you're like, well...
And I'm like, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, why don't you just get the readings from this?
Yeah, because they gave you a bunch of data. Because it's like the time because she gives like a throwaway line of like, we won't build it in time, and it's kind of like, yeah, but you're if you're keeping this station around, it's like you're gonna need time to repair it all and like crew it and all that kind of stuff, and now it's even further away than it was, kind of thing. So it's like, it also just came. It just felt like tacked on. It just felt so contrived. I love the last minute.
There's a throwaway line as well where she's like, "Have you thought, Captain, by going back to your world, you'll be taking me away from mine?" And then she gets in a fucking there's a pod there the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time, and she's been on the space station for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
The script doesn't know what it is.
It really doesn't.
Like it's just things happen when they need to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously she goes berserk, goes around the ship with a fucking gun. Doesn't lethally shoot. Well, she shoots Monk.
Oh, yeah.
He dies.
But then Daniel Brühl gets shot twice.
The same place.
Yeah.
And he's fine. Like
he gets shot twice.
In
the gut and in the shoulder.
And he's fine. I guess that's German for you. Can't keep a good German down.
Yeah.
And then she gets sucked through a window. And then they
get back.
They get back.
Then there's the bit which annoys me, where they go back to Earth, and the husband's like, "Oh no, those things are down here," and then they go beneath the clouds, and then a big Cloverfield monster from like the first one, but massive, shows up and roars at the camera, and then it's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But what bothers me is the whole thing of like, why didn't you tell her? And the guy's like, there was no time. And I'm like, fuck off, yes, there was.
There was no time. I know, yeah. There's obviously some guy who's just, he's way too busy watching his favourite, keeping up with the Kardashians or something. He's like, oh, sorry, there was no time.
He was finishing watching Star Trek Discovery, and it's just like, I don't have time.
There's just no time. No, oh God. And the whole kaiju thing at the end, how big is that motherfucker?
It's really big.
He's like, do you know that new Godzilla Earth thing?
Yeah.
That makes Godzilla Earth look like a bitch.
Yeah. Well, it's because they say in the first one, the first Cloverfield monster was just a baby.
It's a baby,
yeah. So it grew massive because now its head goes above the clouds.
But that kind of makes it a bit less threatening in a
so?
way. Yeah, because imagine being down on the ground. It's like The Mist. The things that you need to worry about aren't the Goliath things that are roaming around, because their heads through the goddamn clouds.
Yeah.
It's because the Cloverfield monster in the first one was scary because it actually noticed that camera guy in the ground.
Yeah,
and it fucking ate him and like it chewed him up.
I guess so. Yeah.
But
then you think, how many of them are there?
I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't really care at that ending. I wish this was just a standalone.
It should have been.
Script with its own twist. Maybe it could have tied like this is why these things are going on, but putting that
should have been.
They should have
just gone with like something where it's like they should have just gone with like now gravity does this or like now particles are doing this. Like they couldn't seem to make up their mind like what was happening to physics. Like some things had been like merged with other things. Then matter became intangible, and Chris O'Dowd lost his arm. Then magnetism went out. Lost his arm. Yeah. And then magnetism went out of control for no apparent reason. And it's like decide on one.
Chris O'Dowd,
it's like decide on one thing that's gone wrong. Like you can't have it all because then it's like, is it affecting just the ship or is it everything in the universe that's gone wrong? Or it's like they just didn't seem to have a clear idea.
Yeah,
and that's what led to this whole thing of like. As I say, the script just does what it wants. People die when the script says so, basically. And it's like, this was just a huge missed opportunity. It's like, if you really thought more about the science behind this.
Well, it's not just about that.
I know, but it's just thing.
It's about the fact that in the future, people will not take Cloverfield as seriously now.
That's what I'm concerned about as well.
Because it's got such promise, but because of the fact... Why did they even need to release this? There's a new Cloverfield film coming out in the summer, isn't there?
Is there?
I think it's the summer.
I thought it was next year.
Is it next year?
Maybe it's this year, I don't know.
I heard something about, there's going to be a new one coming out this summer from somebody. But
the next one is supposed to be Overlord, which is about someone that lands in Nazi-occupied Germany and discovers the Nazis are messing about with like supernatural kind of stuff. Yeah. Which sounds like Wolfenstein kind of shit to me, which I'm kind of excited about. Yeah. But then again, I'm like... This movie has tarnished the record of the Cloverfield universe.
Exactly.
It's like you had a solid monster flick, a great thriller, and now just this utter garbage mess of like a sci-fi horror thriller.
Do you think that they can go back to cinemas after this? Or do you think this is now going to be a Netflix straight to...
I mean, that's what I'm wondering... That's what I'm wondering, because the new Paramount CEO, because he's also put... There's another movie being directed by Alex Garland, the director of Ex Machina, called Annihilation, and I've seen the trailer for it. It looks really cool.
And it's not coming out in cinemas.
Yeah, it's going into cinemas in America and I think China, but being released to Netflix everywhere else. And I was like, that sucks, because I want to see it on the big screen. And even the director is like, I made it for the big screen, what the hell, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then they said, okay, and now Cloverfield movie straight to Netflix. And at first I was getting really angry because I was like, you can't just offload anything that you think is like a bit risky onto Netflix kind of thing and only rely on your big tentpole blockbusters. Because Paramount had a terrible 2017, like all their big releases flopped or underperformed. And so then people were suggesting, like, is this new CEO just like too risk averse and he's just putting everything to Netflix? And because at first I was angry about that, but now I'm wondering, it's like, well, did this particular one just go to Netflix because it was crap?
Yes, I think they just cut their losses.
Yeah.
We're like, we need to make a profit. Sell it to Netflix. Yeah. It's guaranteed. It's their problem now.
I guess so.
I think that's just what happened. Brilliant marketing campaign. Very bad, mediocre at best film.
Yeah.
And that's really the review right there.
I just hope that whatever this Overlord thing is, I hope that's actually really good. And
of course.
Because again, it's like, it sounds disassociated with everything else. It's like, it's in the past, it's in World War II, it seems to be more supernatural focused rather than sci-fi. It's like, I'm intrigued by all of that. So I hope it's more in the tradition of 10 Cloverfield Lane, where it's like, this would be a solid, thriller or action film or fantasy film or sci-fi film by itself, with the Cloverfield connection added to keep the fans happy kind of thing. I hope it's more in the vein of 10 Cloverfield Lane rather than this.
I have a request. I have a request for J.J. Abrams.
Yeah?
JJ, I know you're watching this.
Sure
he's on the edge of his seat right now. He's got his ear pressed up against the Speaker. Okay. Make a fucking film about Cloverfield instead of turning something like some other script into a Cloverfield movie. Yeah. Just make a goddamn Cloverfield movie. Like, without it being some amalgamated thing that you've just brought up.
Like, just Frankenstein another movie.
Yeah, Frankenstein monster. See?
That Cloverfield,
well, I mean, you just said Frankenstein.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that's my request. I just want an original script, original ideas, and it being solely intended to be a Cloverfield property.
Because it seems like Cloverfield's like business strategy is just to find other scripts and then just be like, I'll have that one.
Yeah.
And be a Cloverfield movie.
Yeah, this isn't a pick and mix.
Yeah, it's like this kind of proves like, no, you cannot do it. It's like it worked with 10 Cloverfield Lane because it was kind of set up to be that way anyway. But then
it's a bottle movie.
Yeah, but then it's like with this one, it was so obvious that it was not supposed to be with any connection to Cloverfield in any way. And also because they made this movie, I think this one was particular bad because not only did they make it a Cloverfield movie, but they made it like the explanation for the universe movie. And it's like when you're trying to retrofit that onto a script, which was in no way set up to be not even a Cloverfield movie, especially not the explanation of the
this
universe
one needed
movie.
to be a solid script.
It needed to be like a standalone thing, And it's like I want to see more of that. I do not care about multiverse stuff. It's like that's interesting to think about, but that's the stuff for the internet fan theorists to do. It's I just want to see good, solid, standalone sci-fi or fantasy or supernatural kind of horrors or thrillers or action films, whatever you got. It's like I want to see more of that and let the Cloverfield connection stuff just be the Easter eggs. I'm happy for them just to be the Easter eggs and let the internet do the researching and the viral marketing to do all the links to the Tagroatu Corporation or whatever it is.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see the Cloverfield monster after this?
I hope it doesn't show up
Just an educated guess.
I hope it doesn't show up in the World War II one.
Oh, fucking! I hope so. I really hope so.
You hope so?
Like, I hope it's not gonna.
Oh, right.
Like, yeah, I hope that you're right.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words for the Cloverfield Paradox?
Again, it's like I still think the universe is promising. I think don't try to damage control this one. This was just an abject failure. Yeah. Now just look forward into the future and do not butcher the future movies. Just make good, solid, standalone, creative movies.
Yeah, just good.
If you want to give it the Cloverfield barrier to sell tickets, that's fine. But don't butcher other scripts to make them into something they're not.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully the next one's good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, right.
So this has been James.
And that's been Rowan.
Exactly.
Right.
Have a good one, guys. See you.